So trying to get back on making videos again because obviously I've been slacking with that recently, but definitely trying to be more consistent with my uploads and really update you guys on a variety of different things, especially my progress as I kind of finish up my taper and my peak into this meet, and then also just some other things that I've really been wanting to share, some thoughts that I've been having and some different perspectives that are really applicable to powerlifting. And so bouncing off that, the first thing I want to talk about is expectations and how this kind of correlates with powerlifting and also the philosophy of Stoicism, right? So maybe you're not entirely sure what Stoicism is. A lot of people, especially British people, tend to think that it's the whole idea of having a stiff upper lip, which means that, whatever situation occurs, you're not really fazed by it and you just deal with it, and you take it on the chin in a way. And I think that is definitely true to some regards, but I think it also comes back to the initial way in which you perceive a situation to be, right? So the best example of this, which I'm actually taking it from another video I saw on YouTube, but I'll make sure I link that in the description so you can kind of learn a little bit more about this philosophy. But essentially the example that this guy gave was that you start renting an apartment. In scenario one, your landlord tells you that it's going to be $1,000 a month, and the price is never going to change. And so you pay $1,000 a month, and a year comes by, and the landlord comes back to you and he says, "Well, next year it's going to be $1,500 a month." Now you're left in the situation where you didn't expect this extra cost, and now so you have to plan this out. You have to figure it in your budget. And then maybe you think, oh, I'll have to go and move somewhere else, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to live here. I like living here. And then you're left in this scenario where you're upset and disappointed and annoyed and probably really pissed off. I would be pissed off if that was my situation. And overall, the whole situation, which hasn't necessarily been hugely negative, you still have a place to live, you still have a home, all of these things has just been turned into a really negative situation, and your perception of it is hugely negative, right? And so then let's go to scenario two. Scenario two says, your landlord comes and he tells you the first year it's going to be $1,000 a month, and after this first year the price is going to then increase to $1,500 a month. So you go into the relationship knowing that after this first year the price is going to increase, and as a result you kind of have that planned out in your mind, and therefore your expectation is set of it, and you're never going to be put in a position where you feel negative about it because you know what you're getting into going into it, right? And obviously this can apply to a lot of different things. People that go to university, a lot of people in their first year, they become very, very depressed because they didn't expect it to be like this. They didn't expect them to face so many challenges while they were there, or have such a difficult time making and building relationships. And this is definitely something that's applicable to all aspects of life, but really today I wanted to apply it to powerlifting. And you think about it in terms of your training and also meets, right? So if you go into meet and you fully, I'm not saying don't have goals, you should set a goal. Like, let's say your meet goal is you want to total 1,000, right? You have to accept that there's a huge possibility that this might not happen, right? You have to accept that going into it, the worst thing that could happen is you fail your list and you bomb out and you get injured or whatever, right? So you have to be willing to accept that that is a possibility and it could very well happen. And you also have to accept that another possibility is you hit your goal or you surpass your goal, and that's great. But you have to be equally prepared for both situations going into it. You have to know what you're getting into, and you have to assess from the get-go that you're going to be okay with either outcome. And you're not going to let that dissuade you from doing it, and you're not going to let that affect your own internal happiness. Because obviously the main issue that most people face is that they let their happiness be controlled by things that are external to them. The material objects that they have, the relationships that they have. They let other people's perception of them change their perception of themselves, really. And that is a really great issue, and it's definitely something that is hugely popular in powerlifting, especially with the whole Instagram and Facebook world and YouTube world that we live in. Everyone is constantly sharing their content online. I'm guilty of doing this myself. And you expect people to view it, and you expect people to think, wow, this guy's really strong. That means he's a better person. It doesn't make a difference. JP Kauki actually posted something about this recently, which I thought was very interesting. And he was talking about in relation to powerlifting records, there's so many more things that are important than powerlifting records, like being a good person, like not being a dick. And I think, it's really interesting because there's so many people that post all this stuff on Instagram and, trying to build this persona and make people want to see value in them. But really what they're doing is they're just assessing their own value is in the hands of other people. They're letting other people see them, and then they're using that perception of them as their perception of themselves, and they're assigning things like having a lot of followers or powerlifting records or all these different things as metrics of their own happiness and their own success, when really the only way that you can measure your own success is by being happy, right? Everyone's main goal in life is to have as much happiness as possible. Obviously there's going to be periods of unhappiness and periods of sadness, but at the same time, you want to make sure you're having a life in which you can find enjoyment and you can find happiness by doing the things that you like to do. And I think a lot of people are guilty of letting their happiness be controlled by other people, and I think that's something that we really need to step away from, and that's something that you can directly control, especially in powerlifting and in competitions, by just setting your expectations clearly and understanding the possible outcomes of the scenario. And that kind of, comes back to a lot of things in regards to mindset. I'll definitely make some more future videos on this, because I think it's a very interesting topic that really isn't discussed enough about powerlifting, because it's one of the most mental sports. I used to play golf, and I thought that was an extremely mental sport, and I think, powerlifting might even be more difficult, because the situations you get put in, missing attempts, especially in strictly judged competitions, it's so difficult if you don't understand how to approach it and you don't approach it in the right way. And I think, for me, from my personal experience, I've never not been injured going into a powerlifting meet or in a training block. And my expectations have always been to make progress, and I've never done that as much as I would have hoped to, right? In my second meet of all time, I wanted to total 1,400, but I just wasn't able to do it. My strength wasn't even anywhere close because I was injured, and because my technique was ruined by my injuries, and my expectations were therefore that much higher, which was incorrect. And I should have asserted that, due to my injuries, I wasn't going to be able to get the total that I expected to get, and I had to bring that down, right? And so I think this can lead to a ton of different mistakes on meet day. You might open too high, you might take too big jumps, but really just understanding that it doesn't really matter how you do at the end of the day, as long as you understand that it's a journey and it's a process, and eventually you will get there. And if not, you're just going to keep working until you do get there, and it really gives you something to aim for. Not everyone is going to walk in the gym and squat 1,000 pounds. Not everyone has the genetic potential to do that, but setting that goal, it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. It just means that it might take you a little while longer to reach. And if you genuinely believe that that's a possibility, then that's fine, but just don't expect to go squat that straight away. Expect to squat 1,000 when your last PR was 998 pounds. That's a different story, and that's a different conversation entirely. So that's really all I have to say on that topic. A little bit more about my training specifically. Everything's been going well. The transition to sumo deadlifts has been working really, really well for me. I'm progressing well with that, and I'm excited to see how that turns out. And I think, my main goal for this meet has been just to compete injury-free and compete pain-free. And, so far it seems like I'm going to be able to do that. And as long as I continue to keep up with everything that I've been doing and continue to train sensibly, then that should definitely be a possibility for me, which is exciting. It'd be nice to hit a good PR total. I think that's going to be a possibility too. So that's going to be really cool. But squats have been moving really well. I've been having a little bit of trouble with some hip shift. I think that is a result of a previous injury, and I've kind of got some weakness on that side of my body, which has been limiting me. But I think as long as I continue to squat with my volume, eventually this is going to balance out. And I've been doing a lot of single leg work too, so I think on the whole it should be able to just go back to normal. I should be able to alleviate this problem. I'm definitely going to do some more mobility stuff and do some more warm-ups to make sure that this kind of goes away, because I think it's definitely limiting me from hitting bigger numbers. Bench press, there's not enough I can say about bench. It's been moving really, really well. If you're interested in knowing how I've been training my bench, then definitely send me an email or go to our website, because I think what I've been doing has been working extremely well for me. And I think if you struggled with the bench press in the past, then maybe this is something you want to try, and I'd be very happy to help you, because it's a struggle being able to be in the Poverty Bench Club. So on the whole, everything's going really, really well. Just trying to make sure that I'm resting and recovering as much as possible, being that I'm about 2 weeks out now. So just got to make sure I'm doing everything I can to be in the best physical shape and the best mental state to compete. So really, just make sure that you're approaching powerlifting from a holistic perspective and including it in your life as one of the facets, and not really just isolating it and thinking of something that you don't have to worry about all the time, and you only have to worry about it in the gym. It definitely is affected by everything else you're doing and the mindset that you approach life in general with. So just be conscious of that and make sure that you're doing everything you can to improve consistently. So hopefully another video will be out next week. I'll keep you guys updated on that, but be sure to go and follow us on Instagram. You'll see training updates almost every day from me there, so if that's something you're interested in, then definitely check that out, and send me an email if you're interested in coaching or just programming help too. I'm happy to help you for free as well. Send out some free programs or anything like that to you, if that's something you're interested in. But yeah, please like and subscribe. Sorry this was so long, but I'll be back next week. Thank you for watching, and best of luck with the training.